Hello and welcome to, as always, a special episode of Weekly MTG. This one, though, a little unspecial.
Yeah, unspecial.
Unspecial. But it's always special when we have Mark Rosewater here.
Yes.
Mark is here to talk about something very near and dear to his heart.
Very near and dear.
Whoa. Blake has got to turn the sound down on his phone. So that's the sound that lets you know.
That was unexpected.
It was unexpected. That's the sound that lets you know that we are going to be taking questions for Mark about Unsanctioned. Really,
anything.
If it's a question about any uncard, we will take it. So if you look down
anything
at the bottom,
below where our names are,
ask the Unrules Manager. We're going to have a segment where you can ask Mark any questions about how uncards play, and he will answer
my best.
them as best as he can. Before we get there, though, we're going to talk about a lot of... So there's only 16 new cards.
Yes.
We're going to try to cover a lot of them.
Okay, I have stories for all of them.
Maybe we'll get to all of them. We'll see.
Who even knows? Anything
could
happen.
And then we're also going to open up we got an Unsanctioned right here in the studio. So we're going to open one and look at what's happening. But first... Steve does the news.
That's right. I always do the news when I am here. I've taken a little bit of the break, but I'm happy to be back. There's really only one thing that we announced this week, and that was a new secret layer drop in celebration of International Women's Day. Let's pull up the graphic. Oh, Sean, you're great. You're great, man. Thanks to our producer, Sean, for pulling up that graphic. These are the cards that you will be getting. They are all foil. So Captain Sisay, Una, Queen of the Fae, Marin of Clan Neltoth, Saskia the Unyielding, and Narset Transcendent Master, Enlightened Master.
Yeah.
This is to benefit International Women's Day. Wizards will donate $25 per unit sold, benefiting World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, a charity of choice for International Women's Day. So that will go on sale on International Women's Day, which is March 8th. It's Sunday, March 8th this year. It will be on sale for 24 hours, after which... No more it being on sale. So
that is a sentence.
No more it being on sale. No more it being on sale. But why? So it will be $49.99, available on secretlayer.wizards.com. Check it out.
And that's all the news.
That's all the news.
All the news.
That's the news.
It's fine. Leaves more time for stories.
More stories.
More stories.
Okay.
So I want to start by talking about the product as a whole, because this is a different way for us to release an unset than we've released.
Yes, it's a different unproduct from the previous unproducts. So what happened was...
it's somewhat unconventional.
Yes, it's unconventional. Yeah. Gavin Verhey was assigned a project that was codenamed Parachute, and the idea was make a product that we have no idea when we're going to release it, but in a case of emergency in quotes, but when we need something, we can pull it and we could release this product. And so the tricky thing about it was it needed to be a product that didn't tie into anything, that kind of could live in a bubble by itself. And after Unstable Success, he came up with the idea of what if we did an unthing? And what we realized is, other than a few promos when Unhinged came out, we've never reprinted any of the uncards. And how about a box? So we had a long time ago, there was a product that we never made that was an intro product where you took half decks and mixed them together, and they basically took that. What?
We're making that now.
Well, I mean, the different product is not Jumpstart, but we are making Jumpstart. Pre-Jumpstart, there was another product.
Yep.
And the idea was they thought it'd be cool to use silver border cards, reprint a whole bunch of cards that people like. Unglued came out in 1998.
Yeah.
And 2004 for Unhinged. So it's been a long time. Like, some of those cards are not easy to get. You know, they're from long, long ago. So we got to reprint those. And then he said, could you make me some new cards? And I go, yes, I can. And so originally there was going to be 15 new cards. But as we'll talk about today, I needed to add a 16th new card. And so we made the product. And so it has all the fun of but in a sealed box sort of way. So it's not a booster product.
Right.
You buy that box and you can play, and you need nothing else. All you need is that box, and then you can have unfun.
It puts the back into fun.
Unfun is good fun, by the way, in this kind of.
So why don't, while we're describing how you play with it, Steve, why don't we open it up and start showing it off?
It's a good idea.
So Mark, what do you do? You open this up. How do you start playing?
Okay, so basically there are 5 sort of half decks in it.
Okay.
Each one of them is a monocolored deck. And then all you do is take 2 of them, smash them together, have the other player take 2 other ones, smash them together, and then you got it. So as you can see, there is 5 half decks, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, and green. And that you just take any 2 of them. If I take the white and the blue one, shuffle them together, I now have a white-blue deck. My opponent could take black and red, and now they have a black-red deck. So you can mix and match these, and the idea is you take 2 half decks and you mix them together.
Yeah.
And then play and have fun. And there's a lot, we brought back a lot of favorite old uncards, a lot of silver border cards from the past, and we made some brand new ones. So every deck has 4 new cards in it. So there's 1 land that shows up in all 5, and then beside the land, there's 3 new cards in each of the mini decks.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Steve, what else is in the box?
Well, there's this lovely insert. There are 2 dice for the things that care about dice.
Which is important because there are cards that care about 6-sided dice.
You need to roll dice. That's a
roll dice. And there's this packet that looks like it has some tokens and maybe some lands in here.
Why don't you open that one up?
Yeah.
And then while he does that, so there are tokens and lands in that pack, and we have graphics showing both of those.
Yes.
So
I haven't seen these in person before. These are
the
sweet.
Tokens that you can get.
A few of these, by the way, are tokens for old uncards that never had tokens before. For example, Giant Teddy Bear. I think this is the first time we've ever made a token for Giant Teddy Bear, which is on a water balloon
Gun game.
Yeah. Which you play this game and then the winner gets a giant teddy bear. So the B.O.B is from B.O.B in this set, which we'll talk about later. And then these are all other cards that this set generates.
Yep.
The dragon is actually literally a gold card, not in a vernacular sense, but it is the color gold, much like the teddy bear is the color pink, because unsets have weird colors beyond the normal 5. And then the Acorn Stash, Acornelia, which is a new card in this set, she makes something that's kind of like energy, but they're acorns rather than energy, and that is will represent it for you.
And then one of the more exciting things for some players with the unset is the lands, which are gorgeous.
They're sweet. I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah, so
really
that's
nice.
what they look like. Mark, what were you saying earlier about the design being a combination?
So the quick version of this is in Unglued, Chris Rush, there's Chris Rush, had this idea for this full frame art. Nobody wanted to make it. He kept pitching it. Nobody wanted to make it. And I thought it was an awesome idea, and I was making this very weird set. So I'm like, I'm making it, and no one stopped me because it was a weird set. So Mark was doing a weird thing. They were super popular. So when we did Unhinged, we did them again. When we did Unstable, we did them again. Also, they've been in Zendikar and other products.
Yep.
So what we did here was, because this is a callback to Unglued and Unhinged and Unstable, we took all 3 of the 4 lands and kind of made a combination of them. So this is inspired by all 3 previous full art lands. And in this product, you get 2 cycles of them, 1 foil and 1 non-foil. And so, so beyond the half deck, so you get, each half deck is 30 cards, and there is 5 of them, obviously.
Yep.
You get 5 foil full art lands, 5 non-foil full art lands. You get the tokens, and anyway, and lots of fun gameplay.
Yeah.
These are really cool. Sean, I don't know if we can go to a close up of the product somewhere. Nope, it's okay. It's fine. But you can sort of see on this planes that
it's very shiny.
It's shiny, but specifically the gold border is the
gold
one
frame.
that really
Yeah.
stands out. The gold frame stand. That's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, we actually, it's funny, we do tests on these, and I think they did a couple tests, because there was something new we were trying to do to get it right, so.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it ended up really, really nice.
I mean, the lands are gorgeous, obviously, but these aren't the only new lands that are in
That is correct. So
Unsanctioned, right?
all the lands that are in the half decks are a brand new piece of art, one for each land type, and there's a little hidden thing in the art, if you can figure out for yourself. If you've been online, maybe you know the answer, but I won't spoil the answer. There's a theme between all the art. So the black mini deck has 12 new swamps, and the red deck has 12 new mountains, and so
that are not full border, not full art.
They're not full art.
They have borders.
They have new art, but they're normal looking. They're not full art lands, but they're brand new. So there are 70 basic lands in this product, all never seen before.
It's one of the fun things about Unsanctioned is that the basic lands are so cool.
They're really great.
Yes.
Really
But wait, the cards are fun too.
Cards are fun
Oh,
too.
wait, you mean there
stole my transition,
are
Mark.
non-land cards in Unsanctioned
There are
also?
some non-land cards.
So
What?
we're gonna tell some stories. Well, Mark's gonna tell some
Yes.
stories. Steve and I are just gonna ask some questions.
Yeah.
And then
if you have questions,
put them in chat. We'll
let's
get
talk
to
about
them.
cards.
But let's start talking about some cards, and
Okay.
we're just gonna go more or less in alphabetical order.
Okay.
So you mentioned this card not too long ago about the Acorn Stash.
Yes.
So Acornelia Fashionable Filcher.
Yes. So one of the things we did with this product is we said, were there things that we didn't make it unstable that people really wanted that they talked with me about? And one of the things was we had made a card called Earl Squirrel, which was meant to make a squirrel deck around.
Yep.
But I purposely didn't make it legendary because the ability stacks, I wanted you to have a lot of them in play at once.
Yeah.
But they were like, wait, come on, there's no legendary squirrel. I want to make a squirrel commander deck. So in this product, we made a cycle of 5 cards. We've never made enemy color commanders in Silver Border before.
Sure.
They're ally ones and unstable, but we never made any enemy ones. So what we did is, because this product, each deck is only monocolor.
Right.
What we did is we made a monocolor card, and then one of the abilities has the off-color activation of an enemy color, so that it counts as both. If you notice, the second ability is a green ability, so Acornelia is a black and green color identity card.
Yep.
And there's a cycle of 5. So Acornelia was people like, where's the squirrel commander? We finally made a squirrel commander. So black and green are where all the squirrels show up. And so what happened was I made the card. We did something that's kind of energy-ish, where when you do certain things, you get acorn counters, and then you can spend the acorn counters. In black, you can shrink things. You can -X things. And if you have green mana, you can +X things. And then what I realized was there just wasn't enough squirrels to fill out a full commander deck. So not only does she care about squirrels, but she also cares about spells that have squirrels in the art. So there's a lot more cards when you count those.
Squirrel Nest.
Yeah, Squirrel Nest. There's a whole bunch. Might of Oaks.
Acorn Catapult.
Yes, there's a bunch. So the idea is that the card lets you make a squirrel deck, but not just make cards that literally are squirrels, but also make cards that even show squirrels. And so the cool thing about this is if you play a squirrel that is a squirrel card, it'll have a squirrel in the art most likely since it's a squirrel. You'll get a counter for that. When it enters the battlefield, you'll get a counter for that.
So you get
and
2.
You get 2, and then if it ever dies, you get another counter for that. So you can build up a lot of acorn counters, and then anyway, so this is meant to be a squirrel commander. So the people have been bugging me forever for a squirrel commander. We had delivered a squirrel commander.
Well, now what they're going to bug you about is, can we get more things that use acorn counters?
Yes.
To go in my
acorn counter matters.
Yeah, the other thing, by the way, that from a rule standpoint, there are cards where you can change creature types to other creature types.
Such as Conspiracy, which is a black card.
Or change the words on cards.
Yep.
Artificial Evolution.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can change squirrel to other things. And the questions get a lot wonkier when you start asking about other things. Oh, the one thing about this, by the way, it has to be a picture of a squirrel. Croson Beast represents a creature that is a squirrel that through lycanthropy became a beast. But in the picture, we show the beast and not the squirrel. So it doesn't picture a squirrel. Same with changelings, unless it's literally in the shape of a squirrel. Yes, changelings can change their shape, but unless you see it as a squirrel, it is not a picture of a squirrel.
Right. So you get the acorn counter from a squirrel entering the battlefield.
Correct. Yes, a squirrel enters the battlefield.
But not the art trigger.
Right. Unless the art literally shows a squirrel, and the creature has to be in the shape of a squirrel, it can't be something that previously was a squirrel or could become a squirrel. It actually be a squirrel.
What I also love about this is that it's a throwback to the Art Matters themes of unsets of old.
Unstable had a thing called Goblin Haberdasher where you cared about whether things had hats on them. So anyway, yes, caring about art is something Black Border cannot do.
Yeah.
Because it gets in very gray territory.
I just want to request in the next unset there's a card that cares about cards that have the T-pose.
Oh, yeah. How about cards that care about Muldrifter?
Cards that care about is Muldrifter in the
Your ladies looking left, I think.
Let's go to one of the more popular cards so far in this set. Hasn't come out yet, but you know what? It's popular because it's Alexander Clamilton.
Alexander Clamilton.
That name's a Chris Mooney special, right?
It is. Yeah. So what happened with this is we were trying to make cards with the new cards that were throwbacks to Unglued and Unhinged and Unstable. Obviously, Acornelia was throwback to Unstable. Alexander Clamilton was a throwback to Unglued. In Unglued, I was trying to make fun of the animal creatures we make, because one of the things Magic likes to do is take a creature and make it into a humanoid type thing. So I said, what is the silliest thing I could come up with? And it was clams.
Clam folks.
We made clam folk. So I think there were 3 clam folk in Unglued.
It was Clam I Am, Clam Ambassador, and
Session.
Clam Session. That's right.
So anyway, Gabby was the person that first went off and started putting the set together and made the decks and stuff. And Gabby came back with the idea of I think it was called Calamity Jane.
Okay.
And I thought it was a funny pun because Calamity Jane, she's a sharpshooter from the Old West. I was worried that not enough people would know who Calamity Jane is. So I went to the pit and I said, okay, guys, we need other clam names. It's got to be some celebrity. It's got to be clam names.
What other job does someone walk into your workspace and be like, okay, guys, we need clam puns?
Yeah.
And Chris Mooney came up with Alexander Clamilton, and I literally, when he said it, I go, "Oh, that's it. Okay, we're done.
We're done.
We're done." And so one of the things that was fun is, so because of Hamilton, obviously the musical, Hamilton gained a lot of notoriety. So, okay, how do you make a card out of Alexander Hamilton? So the two things that we knew about him that we thought people would know is he's a writer, and he died in a duel. Those are the two probably most famous things about him. And so there's a mechanic that showed up in both Unhinged and Unstable called Wordy that just cares about how much rules text there is on something. So we had him care about wordy things, so he's a writer. And then his extra ability, remember, this is one of the cycles where the enemy color commanders, he had to have a red ability. We're like, oh, well, red can fight, and we wanted to do dueling. So red fights, but it fights in a way that wordiness matters. And so if you cast wordy cards, you can scry, put a wordy card on top of your deck, and then when you fight, you can make sure you win the fight.
Yeah.
And so I was very happy with this because it's a clam, got a clam pun name, and then it gets to be who he is and brings him out. So
my favorite part of this card is the creature type Rebel on there.
Yes, that's also a Chris Mooney addition.
Yeah.
So originally it was just a Clamfolk advisor, and Chris came and said, "Could we fit Rebel?" I think we can, and we fitted it. So.
I do. So, chat, I'm writing down a lot of your questions that are in chat, and we're going to get to them later. But I do want to call out one question that was just asked because the responses people are giving are not correct.
Okay.
So you originally said that this was created for an emergency.
Okay.
They're asking what the emergency was. That isn't exactly why we placed it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Basically what happened was the product was made originally, so in case we ever needed it, we'd have it.
Yeah.
But then people fell so in love with it that we're like, oh, we're just going to make it. So like it wasn't that there was an emergency. It's just we kind of, for other reasons, made this product. People fell in love with it and are like, oh, we just got to put this out. So it ended up like getting on our schedule quicker.
Yeah.
There wasn't an emergency.
Yeah.
It was designed as a product that could, whenever we need to make it, and then people fell so in love with it, it just got made anyway. So anyway, there was no emergency.
This is what happens when good product designers come up with products that are too good to be flexible.
Yes.
This
so
is what happens.
We made it. People were like, how can we not put this out? So they put it out.
So we had to put it out.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So.
Okay, next up, let's talk about mechanically. This is my favorite card in the set because it's just weird.
Okay.
But Bevy of Beebles.
Oh, Bevy Bob.
Look, you're excited.
I'm
about
so surprised that this is your favorite card in the 16.
Okay, so what happened was I knew I wanted to do a new Planeswalker. And so the franchise team is the team at Wizards that oversees the Planeswalkers. They overdo story and stuff. And so one of the rules of Silver Border is we don't do things that Black Border will do. So I wanted to come up. So I made a list of crazy ideas, and I went to talk with them. And a lot of my crazy ideas are like, well, is it that crazy? Like they're like, maybe we do that. And one of my ideas was it's a collective of Beebles, and they're like, yeah, you can do that. So, and so many years ago, Richard Garfield came up with an idea. I don't think we even made it, but the idea was a game in which your hit points were goblins. And so the idea, the way you would know what your hit points were, how many goblins you have. And as you took damage, you'd lose goblins. And I just thought it was a cool idea. So I said, okay, since we have a collective of Beebles, could we do that with loyalty? Could the loyalty be the number of Beebles you have? And I went to Eli, who's our rules manager, and I said, Eli, is this something Black Border could do? And after a minute of laughing, he goes, no. This is one of those things that people say, oh, couldn't this be in Black Border? Not even close. Not remotely close. But I then took the idea of, okay, when you use the loyalty, you gain Beebles, and when you, with plus loyalty, you gain Beebles, it makes tokens, and when you spend the loyalty, you lose Beebles. And it was built around that. And so we liked the idea that sort of sacrifice a Beeble, draw a card made a lot of sense. We knew it would be blue because Beebles are blue. And then Beebles are known for their unblockability. That's kind of the thing that Beebles do. And so we decided that, we'd make some number of them unblockable, but then we tied into your hand because you're drawing a card. So X Beebles equal to the number of ones in your hand are unblockable. And then also when you use that, you make a Beeble because you go up in loyalty. Now, a rules question that gets asked a lot is, you can play other Beebles, like we have cards that are Beebles, and if you play other Beebles, it just makes the loyalty go up. It just counts Beebles. And when you have to sack a Beeble, you can sack whatever Beeble you want. You're not forced to sack a token, but when it creates a Beeble, it creates a token. That's always the same. And because this comes up, doubling season will double the number of Beebles you make when it enters the battlefield, because that's an ETB effect, but it does not double. It's a cost, not an effect, when you make the Beebles with the +1.
Right.
That is, yeah, I have a doubling season commander-based commander deck, and that was one of the rules quirks I didn't learn at first. But
I'm sure you learned it pretty quickly.
I learned it pretty quickly.
So doubling season and Bob, not quite as good as you might think it is. So.
Next up, let's go with Flavor Judge.
Flavor Judge. Okay, so we probably don't have the key art, but here. On the box.
Hold up the box.
On the box, the key art is what we call the main picture here. There.
No, this one.
Yeah,
this one.
Forward.
It is the main picture. It doesn't always go on the box. In this case, one on the box, but it's usually the main ad we do, and often it shows up on the booster box in a normal Magic set. So this product. At one point was called Unboxing, but it didn't end up not be able to call it that. And so they made a boxing ring, and it had a squirrel and a goblin fight each other, because goblins and squirrels are an ongoing theme in all the unsets. And at the bottom, there was a little chicken who was the referee.
Yep.
And I loved the chicken, and I said, you know what? Chickens was the theme in Unglued, so we were trying to make a throwback. So we said, okay, I want to turn that guy into a card. And so what I said is, I said two things. I go, one of the ideas I'd written down on my pad of ideas that I wanted to do was, there's it's called Flavor Draft. It's a format. And the way Flavor Draft works is, you do things, but you can call over the Flavor Judge, it's called the Flavor Judge. And if you think something doesn't make flavor sense, the judge rules on it, and if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so the idea is, in Flavor Draft, things have to make sense, otherwise you can't do them. And I love that idea. So I said, okay, we have this referee, that's a chicken, and I love this idea of a flavor judge. Ooh, what if he's the flavor judge? And then this is another Chris Mooney special. Chris Mooney made this card. And the idea was that if something's going to destroy one of your cards, you can use the flavor judge, and then we do what's called outside assistance. It's a mechanic we had in Unstable, where you get someone who's not in the game and say to them, here's what's happening. Does that make sense? And if they say it doesn't make sense, you sack the flavor judge and stop it. You counter the effect.
Mark, I'm going to be honest. The only thing I actually want to do is cast Fry on Flavor Judge.
Okay.
Which, I think if I were asked in response to a Flavor Judge, I think I'd allow it.
Yeah.
I think
right.
that
Yeah.
The fun thing about Flavor Judge is Magic has a lot of weird, wacky. Like the whole reason the Flavor Judge the Flavor Draft format is a lot of fun. I just wanted to bring that to Magic. So now, outside of the format, you now get to experience that with Flavor Judge.
Cool. Next up, let's look at Infernia's Spawnington III Esquire.
Okay.
Best name.
So this
Love
was
this name.
okay. So many years ago, because like 1996 or something, Ron Spencer was asked to draw. Normally, when the artists do illustrations, they have to send a sketch in, and the art director has to sign off on the sketch before they do the full painting to make sure that everything's okay.
Yeah.
And he was assigned some horrible thing, because Ron Spencer's great at drawing creepy black-looking things. And but Ron Spencer's background is he used to do greeting cards. And so he turned in this little mouse drinking cocoa as a joke. I mean, it wasn't meant to be the real card, but as a joke. And everyone thought it was funny, and it was up on the wall. So when I was doing Unglued, I remembered that picture, and I said, "Can we do that? Can we have him do that?" And the idea of the joke that I thought was funny was, it is the most vile, horrible thing in the world. So we called it Infernal Spawn of Evil. And the idea of the card was, it was so scary, it's so horrible, that just showing your opponent you had in your hand scared them and they lost life, because they were so afraid that one day it's coming. You had to say it's coming. So in Unhinged, we made Infernal Spawn of Evil, which was the son of the Infernal Spawn of Evil. We went back to Ron Spencer, and Ron Spencer, so it's on the right there.
There it is.
And Ron Spencer drew the original, now a little bit older, with his son. And so then if you look, I mean, I won't get ready to do it right now, but the cards evolve over time. Their cost, what abilities they have, everything sort of builds upon itself. And we didn't put a third one in Unstable, and a lot of people had expected it.
I was disappointed, I'll be honest.
And the reason we didn't at the time was we couldn't crack it. We didn't figure out the right solution to it. But so many people complained, like, okay. So I actually ordered the art. We commissioned the art before I knew what the card was going to do. I'm like, okay, you know what make us figure it out? Having art done. So, and we managed to, we had a bunch of problems to solve. We managed to figure it all out. We have an ability that works with the previous two. You know, the cost and the abilities, like everything plays into it. We even the creature type line makes reference to the 2 jokes of both of the ones, because back when we made Infernal Spawn Evil, we stopped doing demons, so it's crossed us as beast. But when Infernal Spawn Evil came out, demons were
doing
back,
demons
so we
again,
crossed
yeah.
beast and put demons. So now we put both. Anyways, we had a lot of fun there. And then the problem we had was the name didn't fit. Infernal Spawn Evil didn't fit. If you notice on the right, the other name barely fits. And Ari Nee, the winner of the Great Design Search 3, came up with the name, which barely fit, but it fit. And then I was tasked with coming up with one line of flavor text that matched the card. And I was very, very proud of that, because I had one line. That's not a lot of space. But anyway, we went back to Ron Spencer. Anyway, it's a thing of beauty, so I'm very happy with how it came out.
It's very nice to complete the cycle too, like the trifecta of
Yes.
Yes. Grandfather, father, son.
And by
It's
the
really
way,
nice.
for people who don't know, a good combo is that and Booster Tutor.
Oh my God! Yeah. Yep. Oh, amazing.
I want to take a break from going through new cards.
Okay.
Someone asked about an old card that I think if it's well here, also a black card, except it's 2 black cards.
Dun, dun, dun.
And they want to know why BFM did not make it into this set.
One of the issues in general was we were trying. This is a playable thing.
Yep.
And so one of the things we avoided is one of the things we had made in some are what we call build-around cards, where the whole idea is it's a challenge, but you want to build around it.
Yeah.
And BFM is a build-around card. It's 15 black mana.
Yep.
So putting it in a black deck where you're just never going to get to 15 mana. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it would get the card in people's hands, but it wouldn't work in the product.
For context, how much black mana is actually how many swamps are actually in the deck?
There are 12 swamps in the deck.
There you go.
I mean, there's 12 swamps and there's an Underdome, but still, getting to 15, right, you'd have an Underdome in the other one. So, yeah, there's not even 15 black mana sources between a black deck and another deck.
Yeah.
So, the cards had to work in the product. So, there are things, like, we did use this as an opportunity to reprint a lot of favorites that people might like, but it had to work in the product. We could squint a little bit, and that's okay, but BFM, literally you couldn't cast it. There wasn't enough black mana sources to cast, let alone you need both sides to cast it. You couldn't even cast it, assuming you had both sides with the mana in the product. So.
I think this is also a decent opportunity to talk about the intentions behind, Unglued versus Unhinged versus Unstable, right? I mean, Unglued, when it came out, was actually just meant to be a joke, right? It wasn't...
Well, I mean,
you could play them, but
it was meant to be played. I mean, they all were meant to be, like, on the spectrum of casual social play to highly competitive play.
It's way more unsolved.
It's the product most to that end that we make. You know what I'm saying? It's a fun. Magic is fun. Play this because it's fun.
Right.
When we made Unglued, the idea was you would mix it in with your normal cards. And then when we eventually realized, we tried to get it Unhinged, that people just drafted it by itself. So Unstable, we made it to be drafted by itself, so it's its own limited experience. And then mix it in as you like. I mean, we make cards that are meant for Commander if your friends, if your people you play with let you play Silverboard cards. We made cards that are meant for Cube. We do a lot of things where, hey, if you have fun with this, these are fun. There's reasons it's not in Black Border, but not because they're not fun or not enjoyable to play.
But and a lot of the concepts that you explore in silver bordered sets often do make their way in some form to Black Border.
I mean, full art lands, no one would make them. I made them in Unglued, and now they're a staple that Magic does from time to time. Token cards, for example. Unglued was the first one to have token cards. Now that's something that shows up normally in packs. And there's a lot of things like, the pack cycle from Future Sight was inspired by
Rocket Power Turbo Slug.
Slug, so.
And BFM was, there was a little bit of meld going on.
Yes, I mean, Meld very much was inspired by BFM.
Right.
So,
next up, I want to talk about a pair of cards.
Okay.
Because I have questions.
Okay.
Look at me, I'm the DCI.
Yeah.
And look at me, I'm R&D.
Yes.
The infamous Mark Rosewater illustrated.
Yes.
Look at me, I'm the DCI.
I got paid $1 for that.
Nice. Congratulations.
And I didn't cash a check, so really I got paid nothing. But
So my question is this: are we going to have a cycle? Are we going to have like, look at me, I'm the franchise team?
Look at me, I'm Studio
so
A.
something we did in both Unglued and Unhinged that we didn't do in Unstable for reasons that aren't really worth getting into is we had a hidden message, and the hidden message in both of them were, here's some cards we couldn't make, and one of the cards in Unhinged that we couldn't make was, look at me, I'm accounts receivable. We thought about look at me. We didn't come up like some of the things like, oh, we just didn't come up with a good one.
Yeah.
So like if there's another unproduct and we come up with a good look at me, I'm something, we'd be willing to make it. The DCI is public facing and the R&D is somewhat public facing. So there's not a lot of other sections of the company. I'm saying like, look at me, I'm online media.
I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say, so many ideas for look at me, I'm a community manager.
Look at me, I'm weekly MTG.
But anyway, maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll make them.
I like that Look at Me R&D also, we took that format for Mystery Boosters a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, this version, printed this product, is retemplated. It has new scribblings. It's a completely different, like what the card says and how it looks is different than the original Look at Me on the DCI.
Yeah.
So, for those that care.
Speaking of which, Sean, I'm going to skip ahead since he brought that up to Johnny Combo Player. So this isn't a new card.
Yes.
But the fact that it is an old card updated with new art is kind of a joke.
Right. So what happens is it's the same art from the original,
but the cards are
different. And the cards in it are new. The original Johnny Combo Player had a combo, but we decided to update it with new cards. So we changed it. So it's the same basic art except the cards are new and it's a different combo.
And the flavor
text
is
and the flavor text
amazing.
flavor text.
Amazing.
The old flavor text referenced the original combo,
Yep.
and the new flavor text referenced the new combo. So,
yeah,
amazing.
that's all about that one.
I love
Okay,
it.
now we'll go back to one of the new cards, Circadian Night Owl.
There are so many
By the
puns
way,
in that name.
this is my
Oh my
favorite
God, I love it.
new name. Right, it's not one pun, but two puns. So what happened was, when Gabby did the first pass at stuff, I had pitched to her the idea of a card called Night Owl. We had made a card called Ladies' Night in Unhinged, and I felt it was time for another night pun. And so her first take on Night Owl, I think it had an activation at night, because it's an owl. And then I realized that we could turn this into part of our legend cycle, and so make it a white card with a black activation. And I really was enamored by the idea of the white activation you do during the day, and the black activation you do at night, because white's about light and black's about dark. And so we ended up, because it's a white creature, we had to give it white abilities. Well, the black could have given it a black ability, but flying made a lot of sense for the owl. And the idea is they're nocturnal, so it flies at night because it's awake at night. And then during the day, it's light out, so it at least it can look around and watch. It's vigilant during the day. And then we needed to give ability that black and white both had. And I liked the idea of lifelink, and I liked the idea of night tribal. And I was trying to come up with a way to cross night tribal with lifelink. And it dawned on me that night lifelink could be a thing.
That nightlife is a pun.
Yeah, so nightlife is a pun. And I had done Squirrel Link on
Earl Squirrel.
and Unstable.
Yep.
And so the idea of doing another, people really like Squirrel Link, so I like the idea of doing another link. And so this one is lifelink. So it had the lifelink ability. Like Squirrel Link obviously is like lifelink, but instead of life you get squirrels. Night lifelink is like lifelink, but it grants it to nights.
Earl Squirrel would be really great if with Bob if you were to artificial evolution it from Squirrel Link to Beeble Link.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, go make that deck.
All right, next up, I love this story, Topsy-Turvy.
Oh, this is awesome.
Topsy-Turvy. So this card, when first printed in, I think, Unhinged, was a rare, and it's printed now as an uncommon. Why? Why did we make that change? The answer is Topsy-Turvy is printed upside down, meaning if you look at the back of the Magic card, it literally is upside down. Sometimes it's hard to miss that because you just turn it right side up and don't realize it, but it's upside down. And also if you look at the art, things are falling like it's upside down. We couldn't fit the rare stamp on it because it's in the wrong place, because the rare stamp has to be in the same. When we do the sheets, it has to be in the same place.
Yeah.
So the solution was to change the rarity to uncommon so that we could print it. So that's why it's an uncommon. But because there are things like Rare Be Gone, it now is immune to Rare Be Gone.
Oh, that's true.
Matters
Yes.
in
Oh my
Unworld,
gosh.
but it's
In
rare
Unworld,
to
Actually
rarity
matters.
matters, so.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have this editor's favorite card in the set.
Stet.
Draconic Proofreader.
Okay, so this is another in our legendary cycle. So it's the red with a white activation. I realized that we had never made a dragon in Silver Border. Somehow in 3 sets we had never made a dragon. So I said to my team, okay, it's got to be a dragon, but it's got to have a white activation, and I want it to be something you don't think a dragon would normally do, because we're doing comedy here. Contrast is comedy. So I said, what is something a dragon can do that you don't expect a dragon to do? And Ari came back with this version, the earliest version of this card, with the idea that it's a proofreader, and that the white activation was, I think when in his first version, it just deleted letters of permanence, and then he later realized we could add players, because that would be fun. But the white deletes letters, and then the other ability cares about what the name of the card it's referencing. And Ari and I tweaked this a little bit, but and anyway, so it ended up with stet. So stet is a term in editing that means leave it the same. So if you change something but realize you don't mean to change it, stet means don't change it. So the editors helped me with that one. And then also, probably the most subtle joke in the whole thing, notice he's using ice breath on the mice. So he's turning the mice into ice.
Oh
he's
my
taking
gosh.
off the first letter. So
layers. There are layers.
there are
Mark.
layers.
Layers
It's like
on
an
layers
onion.
on
It's amazing.
So there are lots of jokes.
We are more than halfway through our list, so keep putting questions in chat. I am writing them down.
I can see them. I'm keeping them honest.
We've done a few,
Okay,
but
what's next
we're
card?
going to get to them. But also note that we're going to do the Ask the Unrules Manager. We haven't
Yes.
gotten a ton of rules questions
Yes,
yet.
ask the rules questions.
So if you want to know how these cards work or
Yeah.
interact with other cards, put those questions in chat too,
Yep.
and we'll get to them as well. Sean, again, I'm going to skip ahead just slightly. We're going to go to Surgeon Commander.
Okay. So
I
another
love the sight gag in this.
Another card that I was asked about that we didn't make an unstable. We did make a host augment legendary. We made a commander for host augment, but it was in white and green. Dr. Julius Jumblemorph.
Yep.
But host and augment appear in all the colors, and so people were kind of sad that there wasn't a commander that you could play with all the host cards. So we decided to rectify that. A few small problems. One was I had a product where everything had to be monocolored. So I'm like, okay, I need to make a monocolored card that has a five color color identity. So it made sense to put it in. It needed to be in green or white because those are the host augment colors. And green made the most sense. So we put it in green. Plus, green had the easiest access to do other colors. I didn't want to do a activation because one of the ways in the past we've done this is it has a Wooburg activation. But because, like as I said before with BFM, you literally couldn't cast that card. There's no way to get 5 different color mana, even with 2 Underdomes in the 2 half decks. There's no way to do it. So I decided instead that I'd have it tap for mana. But the problem is the template for tapping for mana is add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
Yep.
So I thought for a while maybe I'd just take green off because then it would say tap white, blue, red, red or black or red. But I wanted green. It really weakened the card, and so I said, we're the unset. So we did a non-traditional template, and then in the flavor
Creative
text,
templating.
like augmentation, fluffy animals, and creative templating.
That is creative.
And then for the name, Commander originally was called Elder Dragon Highlander, and the commanders were originally called Generals.
Yep.
And so I liked the idea of it changing from general to commander, and then I realized that there's Surgeon General, which is a position in the U.S.
Pun, yep.
So it was a pun. So the idea is Surgeon General got changed. He originally was Surgeon General, now he's Surgeon Commander. And you're not supposed to pronounce general, but when you talk about this card, you just get to call it Surgeon Commander. General cross off, just us telling it used to be called General, but not anymore.
I don't know. Stet might have something to say about that.
And then the artist drew the picture, and then we picked the creature types based on what we thought
I was going
the
to
artist
ask
had
about
drawn.
that.
Yeah.
Wombat, bat.
Chameleon.
Yeah, we didn't tell the artist anything. I mean, we said draw something of mini creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the mistakes, by the way, is there are a couple cards in the set that should have watermarks. We messed that up. This should have had. I mean, it doesn't, but if we had done this correctly, it should have had a Crossbreed Labs watermark. Acornelia probably should have had a Sneak watermark, and Boomstacker probably should have had a Goblin Explosionaires watermark. Yeah. Anyway, so this is go have fun. Make your. Oh, sorry. Something else important about this card. I realized there weren't enough host and augment creatures to make a whole commander deck. So I said, what else is like host and augment? And I said, well, enchanting auras are a lot like, augment's a lot like an aura.
Yeah.
So let's have enchanting. And then there was a mechanic in an upcoming set, Acornelia, called Mutate. And I'm like, oh, maybe, I said, okay, when's it coming out? And I said, oh, well, this is not that far before that. And so I found out who I had to talk to, which was like 20 people. And I got permission from 20 people. By the way, I didn't think they'd let me do this, but everybody said, sure. And then so anyway, it works with a mechanic that's not out yet, but it will be soon.
Yes.
And it is a wacky
We're
mechanic.
gonna head this off now. We're not gonna tell you what Mutate does on this stream. It's not gonna happen.
I've gotten that question multiple
Not
times
gonna
on the
happen.
stream.
I will say it is when I talked about a mechanic that I made that was kind of nutty. I was talking about this mechanic. There's two mechanics I could have been talking about, but I'm talking about this mechanic. So anyway, Acornelia is going to be fun.
It will be. It will be, but not yet. We got a few more of these. So we mentioned a few times Underdome.
Underdome. Okay. So when originally this product was spec'd, meaning ahead of time they have to plan what the product is and they have to budget and everything.
Yep.
It was supposed to have 15 new cards. But while I was making this, I made the cycle of legendary creatures, and I designed them so the cards worked without the activation, meaning if you get one of the cards, you don't need the activation for it to do something. It had a functionality. But it was kind of sad that if you didn't play it with the other color that was the activation, you could never activate it.
Right.
And so Gavin and I were talking about that, and I said, the way I would solve the problem is I would just make a land, but City of Ass, which is the only land that tapped for any color, use fractions, and we weren't doing fractions in the product. And I said he asked me how I'd solve the problem. I go, well, I would put a new land in. I go, but we don't have the budget for that. He goes, well, hold on a second. And he went and got us the money for it, and so we added a 16. So not only are there 15 brand new cards, 3 per deck, Underdome appears in all 5 decks. So you get 5 copies of Underdome, which if you are an unfan, this is a land you're going to have. Because it taps for any color mana to play Silver Border or pay for Silver Border cost. So if you have a heavy Silver Border deck, this is for you. And there's 5 of them in the product, so each deck has one.
Nice.
And then we decided to flavor it like the boxing ring on the box that the squirrel and the squirrel and the goblin are fighting. That's where they're fighting, is in the Underdome.
Makes sense. I want to get to questions.
Okay.
So Sean, I'm going to skip ahead to I'm messing with Sean this whole time.
Okay.
We're going to skip ahead to one last card story just because you mentioned the card.
Well, there's a card I really want to talk about because it's caused confusion.
What is it?
Pippa.
Okay, we can do Pippa.
Okay.
We'll do Pippa.
Okay.
All right.
So she's also the final of the cycle of Legendary Commander.
Cool. Perfect. Then Pippa, Duchess of Dice, is what we will skip to.
Okay, so this is I've showed you the other 4. This is the final of the cycle of enemy colors. So we wanted to do a Dice Matter card, and then I had an idea on my sheet of paper that I really wanted to do dice tokens. Because there's a card called Elvish Impersonators where you roll 2 dice, 1 for its power, 1 for its toughness. I really like that card. That's a little complex for a token, but I like the idea of, well, what if you just roll 1 die and then it's square statted? Its power toughness are that die. And then it dawned on me that you could make the die itself the token. The reason that matters, and this is something that I wish we explained a little bit better, the second ability lets you re-roll any die, works like it's always worked, meaning anytime a die is rolled, you can re-roll it. But dice token have a special quality in that it is a die that's sitting on the battlefield. You can use her second ability to re-roll the dice tokens.
At instant speed.
Yes, at instant speed. So if I roll and just say I roll a 2, so it's a 2-2, on the next turn or on a future turn, if I don't want it to be a 2-2, I have the opportunity to re-roll it, and you can re-roll all permanents that are dice. Now be aware, the only card that's ever done that is this card. Just because you use a die to represent something doesn't make it a die technically from a rule standpoint.
It is not a green die creature token.
Right. Yeah. The die creature, because you use a die, you can re-roll it. That's something unique about it. Is actually making a permanent that is a die. So you are allowed to re-roll the token. So if she makes a token, you can later on with the other ability re-roll the token. You can also use it to re-roll any other die roll, but you can re-roll the token that it's already rolled, but you can re-roll it. It has been rolled, so you can re-roll it.
All right, let's get to the Ask the Unrules man.
Okay.
Oh, I bet we got some good ones.
We are starting. We are starting to get some. So
Okay.
let's go through these. These are great questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so stoked.
Let's see how many I
Yeah.
defeated know the answer to.
Can I re-roll a die I rolled 2 turns ago?
You cannot. When you re-roll a die, I mean,
Unless it's the die creature.
The dice tokens have a special quality because they're sitting on the battlefield.
Yep.
The problem is your window to re-roll dice, other than the dice tokens, goes away once the die is rolled. The window's gone. So you can't like you can only re-roll a die in the act of the thing happening. So 2 turns later, it's not there anymore to re-roll.
Gotcha.
The dice creatures are the exception because they're still on the battlefield.
Okay. Can you use a 6-sided dice with larger numbers? For example, a doubling dice for backgammon.
No, we define in the FAQ when we say a 6-sided die, we mean a 6-sided die with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Gotcha.
We do define it in the FAQ.
Let's see. That's not a rules question.
Also, by the way, if a card says roll a die but doesn't specify 6-sided die, you can re-roll any die you want that the game has made you roll.
Gotcha.
Your life total, you choosing to make it a die, doesn't mean you get to re-roll that. But if, for example, you're playing Plane Chase and you have the planar die, if the card says re-roll a die, that's a die, you can re-roll it. You can use a Pippa to re-roll the planar die. If it cares about the number, like add 1 to the die, well, it doesn't have numbers, so you can't do that. But anything that says re-roll, as long as a card in the game has made you roll a dice, that can let you re-roll it. And you can use a 20-sided die because of
Sword of Dungeons and Dragons.
and you can use that to re-roll.
Fair enough. If you animate your library and an opponent takes control of your library, can they search it because it's their library?
The problem is the second it becomes not your library, the enchantment falls off because it's enchant library you control. So the second you don't control it, it's no longer animated. So it's never animated to a point where they would have control of it.
Okay.
So they would try to control it. It would knock off the thing, and then once your library is not animated, it's your library. They don't have control of it.
What if you gained control of the enchantment and the library at the same time? I don't know how that would happen, but I'm trying to think.
At the same time.
Gain control. I'm thinking.
I don't know that that's a thing that could ever happen.
If you replenish back 2 confiscates.
Yeah, that would work. Well, no.
And attach them both.
The problem is you need to have control at the same time. You need to uniformly have control, not stacked or something.
But the confiscates wouldn't stack, would they? They would just enter the battlefield.
1 on the enchantment, 1
right,
on the
no, I'm saying, no, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
like, they wouldn't go on
permanent.
the stack.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway.
Mass manipulation.
Oh!
Can't gain control of enchantments.
Yeah. Can only gain control of creatures or planeswalkers.
And anyway, I get this question all the time about what happens when I steal it. You can't steal it. We said you control on purpose.
So when your opponent rolls a die for a card effect, can you re-roll that die after they get a result?
Yes, you can. Also, you can, if your opponent has a Pippa and they make a dice creature, you can re-roll their dice creature. You can re-roll any die when you said re-roll a die. It doesn't have to be your die. It doesn't have to be a die you control.
This is not an unrules question, but I'll ask it anyway. Okay. How evil am I for wanting to put Scheherazade imprinted on Panoptic Mirror? Scheherazade, yeah.
I don't know. Ask your friends.
Yeah.
If you still have friends,
ask them. Yeah.
Does Circadian stack with lifelink? So if you give a knight that has...
the FAQ says that it is a special kind of lifelink, but it is lifelink, and so it doesn't stack. It's just... if a knight has lifelink and you give it knight lifelink, it's another form of lifelink, so it doesn't stack.
Okay. Can you make a Beeble if you proliferate with Bob?
If you proliferate with Bob, the problem is Bob doesn't have loyalty counters, I don't believe, because the Beebles... I
think it's just equal to the number of
Beebles. He doesn't have loyalty counters, he just has Beebles, so you can't proliferate it. Now, can you propagate it?
Populate?
Populate, that's right.
Yeah.
Populate is called propagate in play.
Yes.
Yes, you can. So if you populate it, he'll go up in loyalty.
But not proliferate.
But you can't proliferate because he doesn't have loyalty counters.
Right.
Okay. Question about Boomstacker, which is not actually a card we got to. So, Sean, if you want to put Boomstacker up on the screen.
Another Chris Mooney specialty.
Must it always be a single pile of dice, or can I spread them as little towers of 2 dice along the whole card's area?
It must be one consecutive the second die must be on top of the first die. The third die must be on second. Fourth. It must be stacked in a singular thing.
Okay.
We don't specify what kind of dice it is, but it has to be dice. Coins are not two-sided dice. I think the smallest die technically is a four-sided die, which I would not stack.
Yeah,
dice.
it is not your recommendation to stack four-sided dice on top of each other for Doom Stacker.
If I have an old Soul Ring that taps for 2, so it's literally written
Okay, it
as
says
2,
2.
does Baron Von Doom see it as having qualities 1 and 2, or just 1?
Baron Von Count.
Baron Von
Baron
Count.
Von Count.
And it says,
Well, Baron Von Count only advances one at a time. Yes, it only advances one at a time. So it counts as a 1 or counts as a 2, but it doesn't count as a 1 and a 2 because Baron Von Count only advances once per card.
Okay, Sean, can you put...
Oh, and real quickly, the silver border rule is whenever a card asks about the quality of things on a card, it literally is what is written on the card. It's not a matter of there's no oracle or anything. It's literally look at the card. When it says, do we have a watermark? Is there a watermark on the card? It's asking about the name. What's the name? Asking about the artist. What artist is written on the card? So whenever the silver border rule is, you literally look at the card when you care about things, about the quality of the card. Even if those things are wrong, it's a misattributed artist, it's whatever, it's what's written on the card.
Okay. Sean, can you put Bob up on the screen? Chat's telling us our answer was wrong. On the proliferating.
Does he say?
The number of loyalty counters on Bob.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So you can't proliferate, meaning that when you proliferate, it'll add another Beeble to the battlefield.
Yes, I'm sorry. This card went through a lot of templating changes, and there was a period in time where instead of loyalty counters, it had just had Beeble tokens. So,
thank you, chat.
Yes, it says counters. So, thank you, chat. Sorry.
So so if you proliferated, you would get another counter and get another Beeble.
Whenever you get a loyalty, you get a Beeble.
Great. So you can both proliferate and populate and get an additional counter.
Populate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot of cards you can do that with.
Yeah, that's true.
I do want to get to some of the non-rules questions as well.
Okay.
One of them was just about the product. How many full art lands are in each box?
There are 10 total.
5 total.
5 foil, 5 non-foil.
2 cycles, 1 foil, 1 non-foil. And by cycle, I mean 1 plains, 1 island, 1 swamp, 1 mountain, 1 forest. And there's 2 cycles, 1 foil, 1.
Where do you get your inspiration for uncards?
All over the place. One of the neat things about doing Magic design is I get lots of ideas, and some of the ideas are just I try to do them in normal Magic, and I'm stopped.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a card in Unhinged called Staying Power.
Yeah.
I tried for years to get into Black Border Magic, and
that card's insane, Mark.
Right. So Staying Power is an enchantment that effects that end don't end, basically. Yeah. And the reason that we couldn't do it in Black Border is if we could pick the effects, most effects is fine, but when you make it open-ended, there's effects that aren't fine, and its open-endedness made things that wouldn't work. And so I tried in multiple sets to get it in, and eventually I'm like, okay, I'll just put it in Silver Border.
Yeah.
Super Duper Death Ray, for example. I've tried to put Trample on a direct damage spell many times, and finally I just put it in a set.
Yep.
Baron Von Count, destroy target player. Originally,
Door to Nothingness.
Yeah, Door to Nothingness was destroy target player. In fact, it was destroy target creature or player, and they wouldn't let me do that. They said that's not how we template it, so they wouldn't let me do it. So.
Surgeon Commander would be proud. Creative templating.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got this question several times, so I think this person really wants it answered. Are we ever going to do sanctioned, constructed, unset tournaments?
Well, I believe, if I understand correctly, the way your store can sanction an unevent. It's a sanctionable event. So
there's a casual.
Basically,
you can kind of do whatever you want.
Right. Yeah. So I mean,
kind of.
You can't. I mean, it doesn't apply to anything. You're not going to get invited to a PT or something off it. But I mean, you can sanction unevents. It is something you can do. Mm-hmm. And the other big thing to remember is. If your friends, like if you play Commander and your friends will let you play with uncards or play with specific uncards, talk to them. You know, there's a lot. We designed this to make fun cards, and a lot of the reasons they're not in Black Border is whatever, for weird reasons it can't be there, and so we put it here. But there's a lot of very, very fun cards. I understand some of them stretch boundaries, and for some people, maybe you don't want to ask people to do things or put your head on the table, but there's a lot of very normal cards in the sense that it's Magic, but some element of it we can't do. You can't roll dice in normal Magic or whatever, but there's a lot of fun cards. And if you're making a cube or you're playing Commander or even just you want to make some fun constructed decks, like, yes, you can play this box, and yes, you can play it out of the box, and it's a fun game. But silver bordered are stuff you can construct with. They're a lot of fun.
Okay. Here's another rules question.
Okay.
It's involved.
Thanks, Jack.
And it's a couple cards, but
Okay.
I think you'll know them because they're all old cards.
Okay.
If I'm using Ashnod's Coupon,
Okay.
and my opponent is a minor, you may see
Okay.
where this is going, and we are
Yes.
playing in an all-ages lounge,
Yes.
I also control Secret Layer of R&D.
Right. So Secret Lair of R&D takes away the
Oh,
cost.
Lord.
Yep.
There's a RADA. Secret R&D takes away all costs. There's a RADA, although it's literally on the card. There's a RADA saying that you pay for all costs.
Yeah.
So if you have those two out, it's a drink, and your opponent needs to pay for the drink.
Yep.
Note, you can always concede, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's assuming I target an adult beverage of sorts. Will my opponent lose the game for failing to properly resolve a card?
No. The reason is, and this is in the FAQ, in the original FAQ, because
I love that you have like an answer ready for this. Yeah.
So this is something I state in the FAQ that we don't often state, but local laws supersede magic rules. And so if the magic rules ask you to break the law, you can't. The law will supersede the rule. So when you try to get a minor to buy something they legally can't allow, it's unsportsmanlike conduct. You can't make them do that because the law supersedes the magic rules. That doesn't come up a lot in Black Border, but because of Ashnod's Coupon, it's come up. So you can make them pay for the cost, and they can concede if they don't want to, but you can't make a minor buy something they can't legally buy.
Fair enough. Here's a good question.
Yeah.
We haven't asked this yet. What's your favorite new card from Unsanctioned?
Which of my babies do I like the most? That's tough. I think the one that like, for example, I named Circadian Night Owl.
Mm-hmm.
That's the name I'm proudest of. The design that I made that I'm proudest of is probably B.O.B. I really like B.O.B. I mean, B.O.B. does exactly what I want, in which it is a perfect uncard.
Yep.
It makes sense, and you can follow what's going on, but no way in the world would it actually work. But it works, like, the best uncards are like, it makes sense. No one playing it doesn't understand what's going on, but it doesn't technically work. But it's so anyway, there's a lot of, Surgeon General is a really fun card.
Surgeon Commander.
Surgeon Commander is a really fun card. Used to be called Surgeon General. Surgeon Commander is a very fun card. Acornelia is a very fun card. Like Ring a Bell is a card we didn't even talk about.
Yep.
Ring a Bell was based on an old card called Goblin SWAT Team, where you pick a word, and then it has to be 4 letters or longer. And then if your opponent doesn't catch you saying it the first time you say it each turn, they have to ring a bell or say ding ding. You get to draw a card. And so there's a fun little game here where you try to pick a word, and you don't want to say it too often because you want to make them forget that you're playing this little game. But it's a lot of fun. And if you put ring a bell, ring a little like bell, like a hotel bell. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun with a bell. I've played with a bell. It is extra fun if you have a bell.
You walk down to the 3rd floor one day and you hear ding, ding, ding. What is happening? Okay, we are unfortunately out of time. There are more
Unfortunately.
questions. That's why Steve's here.
Yeah.
Mark, if people have more questions
Yes.
about Unsanctioned, how can they ask you?
Well, I have a blog where I answer questions every day.
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yes, so it's called Blogatog. It's on Tumblr. There's a link in the bottom of every column of mine. I answer questions all the time. I answer lots of unruled questions. So if you have unruled questions, feel free to go there. I'm also on Twitter. I just don't. So much stuff happens on Twitter that I don't answer as much stuff on Twitter. I answer a lot more stuff on my blog. But you can ask me in social media. If I see it, I'm able to answer at the time. I'm happy to answer it. Mm-hmm. But I do interact with the public, so there are opportunities to ask me questions.
You heard him. Immediately as soon as the stream is over, go ask him all the questions that didn't get answered today.
Yeah.
So, sorry we didn't get to all of them. We had so much to talk about. We didn't even get to talk about all the cards.
I know.
So,
So much fun.
Unsanctioned is super awesome, and it releases this weekend.
Yes.
The one last story I'll tell it because I know this one.
Yeah.
It releases tomorrow.
Yes.
February 28th.
Yes.
We initially announced it as
On Leap Day.
On Leap Day because it's just a fun day to
Yeah.
release a thing like that. And then we looked at practically it didn't work because some stores don't stock things on Saturdays.
Yes.
And so we ended up giving into the practicality of it so that you could get it.
But you can buy it on the 29th. Yeah.
You can definitely buy it on the you can
If
wait
want
on the
it,
29th.
if you really it made a lot to you with Leap Day, you can wait and pre-order it.
Yeah.
Pre-order it, but then you can pick it up on the 29th.
From a philosophical standpoint, it was meant to come out on the 29th.
Yes.
Yes.
Then the real world
It has a
happened.
special early preview.
Yes. Thank you, Mark, so much for coming on. Thank you all for watching. Next week, and this is actually going to answer a question. That's So next week, we are showing a Mystery Booster WPN Edition draft.
People have been really curious about those foils. What's going to be in there?
We are going to start showing off the foils next week on Weekly MTG. Same Weekly MTG time, same Weekly MTG channel. That's a lot to say.
That was good, though. You did well.
Yeah,
That was
thank
good.
you. So yes, that's when we're going to start showing off Mystery Booster foils next week here on Weekly MTG. So don't miss that. Otherwise, go check out Unsanctioned this weekend, and we'll see you next week.